The supermassive black hole loomed, a ravenous god devouring stars. Dr. Harry Murphy stared at it on the view screen, equal parts terrified and awed. For centuries, the black hole had been a source of dread for the galaxy's spacefaring species, an impenetrable void that consumed all. But Harry intended to change that. On Prometheus Station, Harry and his research team sought to unlock the black hole's secrets. Using advanced human technology and singularity simulations, they modeled the extraction of Hawking radiation from beyond the event horizon, a feat no other species had achieved. Harry's alien liaison, Gruus, a Barzan scientist, interfaced between the humans and the Galactic Council. Then the Craxians attacked. Warships bombarded Prometheus Station, slaughtering the scientists and hunting down the Singularity prototype. In the chaos, Harry and Gruus barely escaped, fleeing into the accretion disk with Craxian hunter-killers in hot pursuit. The rest of the team died in the assault. Now, Harry and Gruus's survival hinged on stabilizing their orbit and avoiding detection. But as they hid in the black hole's shadow, realization dawned on Harry. The Singularity prototype was their salvation and humanity's future. If they could harness the black hole's unfathomable energies, they could end the war, secure human ascendancy in the galaxy, transform a source of primal fear into a fountain of power. To do so, they would have to overcome not only the black hole's deadly gravitation, but the machinations of those hell-bent on controlling it. The cost of failure was annihilation, but the prize for success was humanity's triumph among the stars. In the haunting silence of the accretion disk, Harry and Gruus worked with focused intensity, their escape pod's interior bathed in the eerie glow of instrument panels. Harry's hands flew over the Singularity prototype's controls, his brow furrowed in concentration as he fine-tuned the containment field. Gruus monitored the energy readouts, his alien eyes reflecting the data's mesmerizing dance. "There," Harry said, his voice tight with tension. "If we can maintain this resonance, we should be able to siphon off a small portion of the black hole's energy." Gruus nodded, his long fingers deftly adjusting the power flow. "The potential is staggering. With such a source, we could power an entire fleet." On Earth, Admiral Kincaid stood before a holographic display, his face grim as he studied the intelligence reports. The attack on Prometheus Station was a declaration of war, a gauntlet thrown down by the Craxians. He turned to his aide, his voice low and urgent. "Summon Captain Reeves. We have a mission for him." In the heart of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Valkyr moved through the halls of power like a silken blade, her Barzan robes whispering against the polished floor. She spoke in hushed tones with her advisors, their voices blending with the soft chime of data pads. "The humans have tipped the balance," she murmured. "We must act quickly to secure our position." Harry and Gruus, their escape pod drifting through the accretion disk's outer edges, spotted the derelict vessel, its hull pitted and scarred by the black hole's relentless pull. They maneuvered closer, magnetic tethers locking onto the ancient metal. Inside the alien ship, they moved through corridors choked with debris, the air stale and thick with the dust of ages. In the vessel's heart, they found it, a singularity containment device far more advanced than their own, its technology sleek and elegant. "With this," Harry breathed, his eyes wide with wonder, "we can create a stable micro-black hole. We can escape this place." They worked feverishly, integrating the salvage technology into their own prototype. The device hummed with power, a seething knot of gravity held in delicate balance. Harry engaged the thrusters, and the escape pod leapt forward, the micro-black hole's intense gravity tearing them free of the supermassive's grip. But their triumph was short-lived. Craxian warships, drawn by the micro-singularity's energy signature, surrounded them, tractor beams locking on with implacable force. Harry and Gruus found themselves prisoners, dragged before a Craxian commander who regarded them with cold, pitiless eyes. The sound of explosions and the scream of tearing metal cut through the air. Captain Reeves and his team burst onto the Craxian bridge, weapons blazing. In the chaos, a stray shot struck the Singularity device, alarms wailing as containment fields failed. Harry lunged for the controls, his mind racing as he fought to stabilize the runaway reaction. The micro-black hole swelled, threatening to consume them all. With desperate ingenuity, he wove a feedback loop, the Craxian technology bending to his will. The device shuddered, containment fields snapping back into place, but the prototype was burnt out, its secrets lost. As Reeves's ship hurtled away from the Craxian fleet, stars blurring into streaks of light, Harry sat in silence, his thoughts dark and troubled. They had escaped with their lives, but the knowledge of the black hole's power was loose in the galaxy. The game had changed, the stakes higher than ever before. The future, once so bright with promise, now looked uncertain and dangerous. The journey ahead would test them all. The Prometheus jumped out of hyperspace, Earth's blue orb filling the view screen. Harry exhaled, his shoulders sagging with relief and exhaustion. The journey home had been tense, each moment fraught with the possibility of Craxian pursuit. "We made it," Gruss said softly, his alien features betraying a mix of wonder and apprehension. Harry nodded, his mind already racing ahead to the task at hand. Now comes the hard part. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Harry presented his findings. Holographic displays flickered with images of the supermassive black hole and schematics of the Singularity device. Council members leaned forward, faces etched with equal parts fascination and fear. "The potential applications are staggering," Harry said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Clean energy, faster than light travel, terraforming. The list goes on, but the risks are equally immense. In the wrong hands, this technology could devastate entire star systems." Admiral Kincaid stood, his weathered face grim. "The Craxians have already demonstrated their willingness to kill for this knowledge. We must act swiftly and decisively." The council deliberated for hours, voices rising and falling as arguments were made and countered. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Project Erebus was born. Months later, Harry stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Erebus Research Facility, gazing out at the yawning maw of the nearby supermassive black hole. The station's protective fields hummed, barely audible above the whisper of recycled air. Dr. Liam Sorensen approached, datapad in hand. "The containment chamber is ready for our first test," he said, excitement shining in his eyes. Harry nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Let's make history." As they walked to the lab, alarms suddenly blared. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor in an eerie glow. Lieutenant Commander Ava Starr's voice crackled over the intercom, tense and urgent. "Proximity alert! Unidentified vessel approaching at high speed. All personnel to emergency stations." Harry and Liam exchanged a look of dread. The race for the power of the Singularity had truly begun. The Craxian assault on Erebus came without warning. Alarms blared as the first volley of plasma torpedoes struck the outer shield, sending tremors through the station's superstructure. Harry sprinted down the corridor, his heart pounding in his ears. "Status report!" he shouted as he burst into the control room. Lieutenant Commander Ava Starr's fingers danced across holographic displays. "Multiple Craxian warships decloaking. Our shields are holding, but barely." Harry's eyes widened as he saw the swarm of enemy vessels on the tactical readout. How did they get so close? Ava's face hardened. "It was Takeshi. He sabotaged our long-range sensors before we caught him." A nearby console exploded in a shower of sparks as another impact rocked the station. Harry steadied himself against a bulkhead, his mind racing. The prototype. It's our only chance. He keyed his comlink. "Liam, meet me in the reactor chamber. We're bringing it online." As Harry and Dr. Sorensen worked feverishly to stabilize the micro-black hole, the battle raged outside. Admiral Kincaid's fleet engaged the Craxians, but they were vastly outnumbered. Through the observation window, Harry could see Earth ships erupting into silent fireballs. "Containment field at 87% and holding," Liam reported, sweat beading on his brow. "But we're pushing it to the limit." Harry nodded grimly. "Route all available power to the emitter array. We'll only get one shot at this." The prototype hummed ominously as energy levels spiked. Warning klaxons blared, but Harry ignored them, his focus absolute as he made the final adjustments. "Now!" he shouted. A lance of blinding energy erupted from Erebus, slicing through the Craxian flagship easily. The massive vessel shuddered, then detonated in a spectacular explosion that lit up space for millions of kilometers. The shockwave hit Erebus moments later. Harry was thrown to the floor as systems overloaded and emergency bulkheads slammed shut. For several terrifying seconds, he thought the station would tear itself apart. When the rumbling subsided, Harry pulled himself to his feet. The prototype reactor was a smoking ruin, but a quick glance at the sensors told him it had worked. The remaining Craxian ships were in full retreat. As the adrenaline faded, Harry felt a deep unease settle in his gut. They had won the battle, but at what cost? The power they had unleashed was beyond anything he had imagined. In the wrong hands, it could bring about unthinkable destruction. His comlink chirped. It was Admiral Kincaid. "Dr. Murphy, I need you in the war room immediately. Earth High Command is demanding a full report on the weapon's capabilities." Harry exchanged a worried glance with Liam. The genie was out of the bottle, and there would be no putting it back. Harry stepped out of the war room, his palms sweating from the debriefing. The victory at Erebus had come at a steep price, and the consequences were only beginning to unfold. "Dr. Murphy!" A stern voice halted him in his tracks. General Marcus Rhodes strode down the corridor, his uniform crisp and his eyes hard. "I need you in Lab 7, now." Harry followed Rhodes into a high-security area he'd never seen before. Inside, screens displayed schematics of weapon systems that made his blood run cold. "Welcome to Project Singularity," Rhodes announced, gesturing to the bustling lab. Scientists hunched over workstations, their faces illuminated by holographic displays of miniaturized black hole reactors. At the center of it all stood Dr. Eva Nguyen, her lab coat immaculate, her gaze sharp as she manipulated a 3D model of what appeared to be a torpedo. "Dr. Murphy," she said, her voice cool, "your expertise is required for the next phase of our Singularity weapons program." Harry's protest died on his lips as he saw the grit in Rhodes's eyes. This was not a request. Weeks blurred into months as Harry found himself reluctantly integrated into the Project Singularity team. The work was fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. Each breakthrough brought them closer to harnessing the awesome power of black holes for military purposes. One evening, as Harry was leaving the lab, he spotted a familiar face, Ambassador Zara Valkyr, engaged in a heated discussion with President Richter. "Mr. President," Valkyr's voice carried down the hall, "we must pursue diplomatic channels. An arms race will only lead to devastation on an unimaginable scale." Richter's response was lost as Harry rounded a corner, but the worry etched on the president's face spoke volumes. Days later, alarms blared throughout the facility. Harry rushed to the command center, where chaos reigned. "Craxian infiltrators!" Lieutenant Commander Starr shouted over the din. "They've breached Tartarus and stolen weapon schematics." The fallout was swift and severe. The Barzan ambassador threatened to withdraw support, leaving Earth isolated. In a desperate bid to salvage the situation, President Richter authorized a series of strikes against Craxian facilities. Harry watched from the bridge of the UES Nemesis as Captain Reeves directed the assault. The ship's Singularity-powered engines hummed with nearly unleashed energy as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. "Target acquired," Reeves announced. "Weapons hot." The Nemesis's main cannon fired, a lance of concentrated energy that reduced the Craxian shipyard to molten slag. Similar reports flooded in from other Earth vessels, each strike precise and devastating. But even as they celebrated their tactical victory, Harry felt a growing sense of dread. The Craxians would retaliate, and the cycle of escalation would continue. He thought of the Singularity torpedoes nearing completion back on Tartarus, weapons capable of erasing entire star systems. As the Nemesis prepared to jump back to Earth, Harry made a silent vow. He had to find a way to stop this madness before it was too late. The fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Harry's vow echoed in his mind as the Nemesis jumped back to Earth. Upon arrival, he was immediately summoned to a high-level briefing. The mood in the war room was tense, with General Rhodes pacing anxiously. "We've intercepted Craxian communications," Rhodes announced, his voice grave. "They're planning something big." Before Harry could process this, alarms blared throughout the facility. Lieutenant Commander Starr's voice crackled over the intercom. "Breach detected at Tartarus Station?" Harry's blood ran cold. Tartarus, the most secure facility in Earth's arsenal, had been compromised. On the main view screen, security footage showed a blur of motion as a figure in black armor cut through defenses with terrifying efficiency. Bodies of security personnel littered the corridors. "Karnax the Deathbringer," Admiral Kincaid muttered, his face ashen. "The Craxians have unleashed their most lethal assassin." Harry watched in horror as Dr. Eva Nguyen, lead scientist on the Singularity Torpedo Project, sealed herself in her lab. The camera feed flickered, then went dark. "We've lost contact with Tartarus," Starr reported, her voice strained. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the station's coordinates. The view screen filled with static before clearing to reveal a chilling sight. Tartarus was being consumed by an expanding black hole. "Dear God," someone whispered, "she detonated a prototype." As the gravity of the situation sank in, Harry noticed Lieutenant Jiro Sato's face appear on a secondary screen. The security officer looked haggard, his uniform torn and bloodied. "This is Lieutenant Sato," he gasped. "I've evacuated all survivors and secured Dr. Nguyen's research data." Relief washed over the room, quickly replaced by a relentless drive. They had lost Tartarus, but Earth still held the key to singularity warfare. Days later, Harry found himself aboard the Orman space station, a neutral site chosen for emergency peace talks. The station's grand conference chamber buzzed with tension as delegations from across the galaxy filed in. President Richter nodded to Harry as he took his seat alongside General Rhodes and Admiral Kincaid. Across the table, Ambassador Zara Valkyr's eyes blazed with hardly restrained fury. "This madness ends now," Valkyr declared, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Either Earth stands down its singularity weapons program, or the Barzan Republic will sever all ties." Richter leaned forward, his eyebrows furrowed. "The deterrent these weapons provide is the only thing preventing all-out war. We cannot—" A commotion at the chamber's entrance cut him off. All eyes turned to see Lieutenant Sato stumble in, clutching a data drive to his chest. "Mr. President," Sato gasped, "there's something you need to see." As Sato activated a holographic display, Harry felt a chill run down his spine. The fate of humanity, perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance of what came next. Next, the hologram flickered to life, revealing a complex network of encrypted communications between high-ranking Craxian and Varash officials. "This is evidence of a joint fleet mobilization," Sato explained, his voice hoarse. "They're converging on Orman as we speak." The chamber erupted into chaos. President Richter's face paled as he turned to Admiral Kincaid. "How long?" Kincaid's fingers flew across his datapad. "Based on these trajectories, less than 2 hours." Ambassador Valkyr slammed her fist on the table. "This is madness! Your weapons have brought us to the brink of galactic war." As accusations flew, Harry noticed General Rhodes slip away, speaking urgently into his comlink. Moments later, Rhodes returned, his expression grim but determined. "Mr. President," he said, cutting through the din, "I've initiated the Armageddon Protocol." Richter's eyes widened. "That's not your call to make, General." "With all due respect, sir, it was the only play left. Our singularity-equipped ships are already en route to intercept the alien fleet." On the main view screen, tactical displays showed a handful of Earth vessels, led by the Nemesis, racing to meet the incoming armada. Harry's stomach churned as he recognized Captain Reeves's aggressive formation. "They're outnumbered 10-1, Valkyr breathed, her anger giving way to awe. The chamber fell silent as they watched the battle unfold. Earth ships danced between the lumbering alien dreadnoughts, their singularity drives allowing for impossible maneuvers. Flashes of blinding light marked the detonation of singularity torpedoes, each one leaving a swath of destruction in its wake. Harry's jaw dropped as he saw the Nemesis thread the needle between two collapsing event horizons, emerging unscathed to deliver a point-blank salvo into the Varash flagship's exposed flank. Within minutes, the tide had turned. The once mighty alien fleet was in disarray, their ships either crippled or fleeing. Ambassador Valkyr turned to Richter, her voice barely above a whisper. We cannot hope to stand against such power. There must be a way to ensure its responsible use. Richter nodded solemnly. What do you propose? The Orman Accords, Valkyr said, her mind racing. A non-proliferation treaty. Earth retains singularity supremacy, but under strict oversight. As negotiations began in earnest, Harry felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see Lieutenant Sato, holding out a small data crystal. Dr. Nguyen's complete research, Sato explained. She wanted you to have it. Harry took the crystal, its weight feeling far greater than its size. He knew that within its circuitry lay the key to unlocking Singularity technology's true potential, not just for weapons, but for energy production that could transform civilization itself. As the galactic delegates hammered out the details of the Orman Accords, Harry's mind raced with possibilities. The power of black holes was now humanity's to wield, for better or worse. He only hoped they were ready for the responsibility that came with it. Harry stared at the data crystal in his hand, its weight a constant reminder of the responsibility now thrust upon him. The Orman Accords had been signed, and Earth stood at the precipice of a new era. Dr. Murphy, President Richter's voice cut through his reverie. We need you in the council chambers. Harry pocketed the crystal and followed Richter into a vast room filled with holographic displays and anxious faces. Ambassador Valkyr stood at the center, her piercing gaze fixed on Harry. Dr. Murphy, she said, her voice carrying a hint of steel beneath its diplomatic veneer, the Council has appointed you chairman of the Singularity Oversight Committee. You will ensure Earth's compliance with the Accords. Harry nodded, his mind racing with the implications. I understand, Ambassador. We'll implement strict protocols immediately. As the meeting progressed, Harry caught sight of General Rhodes, his eyebrows furrowed tight. The general's eyes darted between the various alien representatives, a mixture of resentment and calculation in his gaze. Months passed in a flurry of activity. Harry found himself stretched thin, juggling the demands of the committee with the rapid advances in singularity research. He barely noticed when Dr. Eva Nguyen's resignation hit his desk, too preoccupied with the latest reports from the Kepler colony. On Kepler, Chief Engineer Colin Masterson stood before a massive containment array, its sleek curves belying the awesome power held within. He turned to his daughter, Lena, her eyes wide with wonder. This, Masterson said, gesturing to the pulsing energy field, is the future of human civilization. Lena nodded, her young mind already grappling with the complexities of singularity physics. It's beautiful, Dad. Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Liam Sorensen, Harry's protege. Colin, he called out, we've got a situation. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds showed a group of armored figures breaching the outer perimeter. Masterson's blood ran cold as he recognized their gear. Craxian mercenaries. Lena, get to the safe room, he ordered, his voice tight with fear. Liam, we need to stabilize the containment field. As chaos erupted around them, Masterson and Sorensen raced to the control center. The mercenaries had already infiltrated the main chamber, their target clear, a micro-singularity core. Lieutenant Commander Starr's voice crackled over the comms. We're en route, ETA 5 minutes. Hold them off. But it was too late. The mercenaries breached the containment field, the stolen core destabilizing in their grasp. Masterson watched in horror as the black hole began to expand, consuming everything in its path. Sorensen's mind raced, calculations flying through his head. The particle collider, he shouted over the din. We can use it to counterbalance the expansion. With seconds to spare, they redirected the collider's beams, focusing the energy directly at the growing singularity. The station shuddered, metal groaning under the immense forces at play. For a heartbeat, it seemed their efforts were in vain. Then miraculously, the black hole's growth slowed, then stopped. In the aftermath, as Starr's team secured the facility, evidence emerged linking the attack to a classified military program, Project Tartarus. Harry found himself facing off against General Rhodes in a heated council session. This is a blatant violation of the Accords, Harry accused, his voice sharp with anger. Rhodes stood defiant. I acted in Earth's best interests. We can't afford to fall behind in this new arms race. President Richter intervened, his face grave. General Rhodes, your program is hereby dissolved. Dr. Nguyen will face charges of treason. To everyone's surprise, Ambassador Valkyr spoke up. Perhaps there's another way. Dr. Nguyen's brilliance could still benefit our shared goals under proper supervision. Harry's protest fell on deaf ears as the council agreed to Valkyr's proposal. He watched, unease growing in his gut, as Nguyen was integrated into the civilian research team alongside Masterson and Sorensen. As the dust settled, Harry found himself in his office, staring out at the Earth below. The data crystal sat on his desk, a reminder of the power now at humanity's fingertips. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into uncharted territory, the consequences of which no one could predict. In the labs below, debates raged between scientists pushing for bolder applications and those urging caution. The ethical boundaries of singularity research were being redrawn daily, and Harry knew that the true test of humanity's mastery over space-time was only just beginning. Harry's unease proved prophetic. In the years that followed, singularity technology reshaped human civilization at a dizzying pace. The oversight committee he chaired struggled to keep up with the rapid advancements, as colony after colony converted to black hole-derived power systems. On Kepler, the atmosphere in the research labs crackled with a peculiar energy. Dr. Evan Nguyen and Colin Masterson had developed an unlikely partnership, their initial rivalry evolving into something far more complex. Harry observed their interactions during a routine inspection, noting the charged glances and lingering touches. The containment field modifications are holding steady, Masterson reported, his eyes fixed on Nguyen's face rather than the holographic readouts. Nguyen nodded, a hand unconsciously resting on her slightly swollen belly. We've increased efficiency by 27% without compromising safety protocols. Their announcement of Nguyen's pregnancy sent shockwaves through the research community. Dr. Liam Sorensen confronted Harry in the station's observation deck, his face etched with concern. This crosses a line, Harry, Sorensen said, gesturing towards the blue-green orb of Kepler below. We're playing with forces we barely understand, and now we're bringing new life into this chaos? Harry sighed, watching a shuttle depart for the orbital singularity array. I share your concerns, Liam, but we can't halt progress or police personal choices. The ethical debates raged on, but were soon overshadowed by a more immediate crisis. Alarms blared throughout Lunar Colony Alpha, panic spreading as quickly as the unstable black hole that threatened to consume the entire settlement. Lieutenant Commander Starr's voice crackled over the comms as Harry watched the situation unfold from Earth Command. Confirmed visual on the target. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Some kind of drone, but powered by a micro-singularity. General Rhodes' face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression a mask of cold dedication. Authorize the use of force, Mr. President. My Tartarus drones are the only thing capable of stopping this threat. President Richter hesitated, but the expanding tear in space-time on the main view screen made the decision for him. Do it. Harry watched in horror as the clandestine weapons program he'd long suspected came to light. The Tartarus drones engaged their rogue counterpart in a ballet of destruction, warping gravity itself as they clashed above the lunar surface. In the chaos, a new signal cut through. This is Captain Reeves of the Nemesis. We're going in. The next hours were a blur of tense silence and bursts of frantic activity. When the dust settled, Luna was safe, but the political fallout was just beginning. Harry stood before the hastily assembled tribunal, his voice steady as he presented the damning evidence. General Rhodes's Project Tartarus violated not only the Orman Accords, but the very principles of ethical scientific advancement we've fought to uphold. In the end, Rhodes was forced into retirement, his legacy in tatters. Dr. Nguyen faced her own reckoning, stripped of authority and placed under strict supervision for her role in enabling Tartarus. As the immediate crisis passed, Harry found himself drawn back to the research that had started it all. Dr. Amara Aziz's team had made a breakthrough in quantum transportation, and the implications were staggering. We can create stable wormholes, Harry, Aziz explained, her eyes shining with excitement. artificial Einstein-Rosen bridges that could revolutionize interstellar travel. The first manned mission through one of these artificial wormholes launched amid great fanfare. Harry watched from mission control as the ship disappeared into the swirling vortex, bound for the galactic core. Months later, as data streamed back from the expedition, Aziz's young daughter, Zarina, burst into Harry's office, a tablet clutched in her hands. "Dr. Murphy, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and awe. The tablet displayed a complex network of energy signatures, invisible to conventional sensors but unmistakable in the wormhole data. Primordial microsingularities, remnants of the Big Bang itself, forming a vast cosmic web. As Harry studied the image, he felt a familiar chill run down his spine. They stood on the threshold of a new frontier, one that promised to unlock the very secrets of the universe itself. But at what cost? Ambassador Valkyr's warnings echoed in his mind as he called an emergency meeting of the Oversight Committee. The allure of unraveling the mysteries of existence would prove too strong to resist, he knew. As the team assembled, Harry steeled himself for the battles ahead, knowing that every step forward could bring them closer to the unfathomable forces that shaped reality itself. Harry stared at the complex network of energy signatures on Zarina's tablet, his knees going weak from the implications. Primordial microsingularities, remnants of the Big Bang itself, formed an intricate cosmic web that defied conventional understanding. "We need to convene the Oversight Committee immediately," Harry said, his voice tight with urgency. As the team assembled, tensions quickly escalated. Dr. Amara Aziz's eyes gleamed with unbridled excitement as she presented her findings. "These quantum nodes could revolutionize our understanding of the universe," she declared, her fingers flying across a holographic display. "My waveform equations suggest we can manipulate them, potentially unlocking the secrets of creation itself." Harry felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered Ambassador Valkyr's warnings. "We must proceed with extreme caution," he countered, his tone measured but firm. "The risks of tampering with the fabric of reality are too great." The debate raged on, with Harry and the Oversight Committee enforcing strict limits on Aziz's proposed experiments. But even as they spoke, events were unfolding beyond their control. On Kepler, Dr. Eva Nguyen stood before the station's massive black hole reactor array, her face illuminated by the swirling energies contained within. Colin Masterson approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Are you sure about this, Eva?" he asked, his voice barely audible above the hum of machinery. Nguyen nodded, her eyes never leaving the pulsing singularity. "We can't let their fear hold us back, Colin. We're on the cusp of something extraordinary." Together, they initiated their clandestine experiment, pushing the reactor's output to its limits. At first, the results were subtle, minor perturbations in the local spacetime. But as they pressed further, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. On Earth, Harry's meeting was interrupted by a frantic transmission from Kepler. "We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies," a technician reported, fear evident in his voice. "The quantum node is destabilizing on a cosmic scale." The room erupted into chaos as monitors flickered, displaying horrifying images of reality itself, beginning to unravel around the failing singularity. Dr. Aziz's face drained of color as she furiously ran calculations on her tablet. "No, no, no," she muttered, her hands shaking. "This can't be happening." Harry grabbed her arm, forcing her to meet his gaze. "What is it, Amara? What's wrong?" Aziz's voice was barely a whisper. "My equations, they were flawed. By trying to bend the primordial nodes to fit our models, we've initiated a dimensional collapse. The singularity is expanding, consuming everything in its path." As the gravity of the situation sank in, Lieutenant Commander Starr burst into the room, her face a mask of grit. "Sir, permission to lead an emergency response team to Kepler." Harry hesitated, weighing the astronomical risks against the dire necessity. Before he could respond, Starr continued, "I've already assembled Captain Reeves and his Black Ops team. We're prepared to neutralize the threat by any means necessary." "You can't possibly survive those gravitational forces," Harry protested. Starr's eyes hardened. "With all due respect, sir, we don't have a choice. Someone has to try. As Harry reluctantly gave his approval, Star and her team were already racing toward their ship. The mission to save reality itself had begun, with the fate of the entire universe hanging in the balance. In the reactor core of Kepler Station, Ava Nguyen watched in horror as her experiment spiraled out of control. The singularity pulsed and grew, warping the very fabric of space-time around it. As she struggled to reach the emergency shutdown, she found herself trapped in a bubble of dilated time, helplessly witnessing the cosmos unravel around her.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.